This is cs952, Introduction to Web Technologies and Design, and in this next group of videos we're going to be building a gallery page, and this is going to be an image gallery with a selection of photographs all about our subject matter. And in this tutorial example it's pencils, but for your own website it could be anything. We're going to learn how to manipulate images, how to make our image display responsive so it looks one way on a mobile device, different on tablet, different on desktop. Now for our images that we're using 8 images, and these images are all in the 4:3 ratio. They're 1,000 pixels wide and 750 pixels tall. If none of this rings a bell, please go back and watch the videos on preparing images for the internet, where we talk about using different online tools like Pixlr and TinyPanda to crop, edit, and compress our images to get them web friendly. So the first thing we want to do is open up our gallery page. So I'm going to double click on gallery, and here is our gallery page. Now if we scroll down, we'll notice that once again, just like with our index page, the entire page is grayed out because most of the content that we are viewing is in the template. We're going to be adding a whole lot of new content, but most of everything we're seeing right now is in the template, and of course content which is in the template is locked down when we're working on a page-by-page basis. When we want to change something in the template, then we open up our template file and make changes there. So the first thing we can do is get rid of this content that says main content, right? This is just placeholder text so we can find out where we are. My favorite shortcut is in the status bar to click on the instance editable, and when I do that you'll notice that main content becomes completely highlighted. Or you could just use your mouse or your cursor and just drag and highlight that. So I'm going to hit delete to remove that text, or you could right click and choose cut. Either one works the same. Then I'm going to hit enter a few times. If you're on a Mac, you would hit return a few times. 1, 2, 3. This is just to give myself a little bit of space. Now Dreamweaver would like us to hit refresh because we've made changes to code view, and Dreamweaver would like to refresh so that the current view reflects the code that we've just changed. So I'll click refresh. And now, with my cursor flashing right here in the middle, I'm going to go to my insert panel, and I'm going to insert a container. If you recall from the video that briefly talked about Bootstrap components and the responsive Bootstrap layout, when we use Bootstrap components, we start off with a container, and then inside of that container we add a row, and then that row always contains at least one column. It can be more than one column, but at least one column. So we always, when we're using the responsive Bootstrap components, we always start with a container. So I'm going to click on container, and there we go. Now we've got a container added to our web page. And we would be doing this over and over again. So let me click. I'm going to click to put my cursor right in the middle of that new div.container. Right? We can see that there's an opening and a closing div tag. This is the opening div tag. That's where it starts. And this is the closing div tag. That's where it ends. And all of our content, all of our images, everything we put on this page is going to end up fitting in between those two little arrows that are pointing to each other. Now we're going to go back and we're going to add a grid row, because a row has to fit inside of this container, and we're going to go ahead and add one column. One column is all we need right now. So we click grid row with a column, and now Dreamweaver wants to know how many columns are we going to add, and we're just going to add 1, and we say OK. We're going to put our cursor inside of this new class that we have here. It says div class equals column dash md dash 12. We've got our cursor there in the middle, and don't be too concerned if yours says large LG dash 12 or small dash 12. We're not going to be changing the width of this column in any way. So whether it's extra small 12, medium 12, or large 12, it's not going to change because we're always going to have, our column will always be 12 columns wide. With our cursor here in the middle, we're going to go to Insert, and we're going to choose a heading 2. So I'm going to choose heading 2 right up here. And there is our heading 2, just drops it right in there. And we can see we get some placeholder text. And we're going to change this placeholder text to just read gallery. So I'm going to highlight that. That's my placeholder content. And I'm just going to type gallery, G-A-L-L-E-R-Y. Now what we have done so far, adding a container, the container is holding a row, and the row is holding a column. Now we can, once again, visually, we get a clue as to how this works because we have our container. That's the opening tag, and this is the closing tag down here. If I double click on it, you'll see how Dreamweaver kind of gives it a slightly gray background. And then inside of this container, we have this row. Yep. And then inside of this row, we have this column, right? And I can actually click between my column and my H2 tag and hit Enter. And I'm going to hit Tab, just to tab over. And I'm going to hit Return, and then backspace twice. So this is a very good representation of exactly what we're working with so far. We have a container. The container holds a row. The row holds a column, and inside the column is our H2 gallery tag. Let's hit refresh. Okay. And if we look in our DOM, in our document object model, we can see the exact same thing, right? We have, this is our editable instance. Everything that we have on the page is inside of this. And then we have a container. Inside of that container is a row. Inside of that row is a column. And inside of that column is an H2 heading element, and we change that content to gallery. Now, we're going to actually be reproducing this exact structure. This exact code is going to be going on several pages. So rather than type this code every single time we need it, we can use a really neat feature of Dreamweaver called snippets. And this lets us save snippets of code to reuse over and over again. So how do we use snippets? Well, first, we're going to highlight all the code that we've already typed, because this is what we're going to be doing over and over again. Okay? Now under Window, we're going to choose Snippets, or you can just type Shift F9. And we get our snippet pop-up box. Let me make this a little bit bigger for us. Now we already have a lot of snippets. This is already a part of Dreamweaver, all these little bits of code to help us out. So at the bottom of our pop-up box, there's a little icon of a file with a plus inside. And when I hover over it, it says New Snippet. And that's what we want to do. We want to add a new snippet. So let's click on that plus sign. And here is our new snippet. Dreamweaver already copied in the code that we created. If we look inside of our Insert Before window, there's everything that we already included. So in the field name at the top, I'm going to call this starting, S-T-A-R-T-I-N-G _ code, C-O-D-E. We can use this code over and over again as many times as we like. It's kind of like a super copy that's available anytime that you need it. Now we have two different ways that we can use this code. We can have this code wrap around a selection of content, or we can just insert it as a whole block, like boom, here we are. We're just going to put this code right down into the page. And in this case, that's what we're going to do. We're going to choose Insert Block. And I'm going to say OK. And then we've got a little message here about enhanced sync code snippets, and this is telling us that with our Creative Cloud account we can actually carry these snippets around to whatever computer we happen to log into with our Creative Cloud account. So we're going to close that. So let's look. This is our Bootstrap snippets folder. We've been working in a Bootstrap framework, right? And at the very bottom of our list of quite lengthy Bootstrap snippets, there is our new code, starting code. And we're going to use this again when we start working on our other pages. It's a super helpful option that Dreamweaver offers us so that we don't have to keep doing the same work over and over again. So let's close this, and this is probably a good place to stop, and then we're going to get started with continuing to build our website. So I'm going to hit Save All, and then we will continue in our next video.